Alrighty, so News Week episode on this Thursday evening, and we are almost there. We are almost finished with the international break, and now I kind of know what it feels like as pretty much the rest of the world basically complain about that there's an international break and there's no action happening for 2 weeks, and how it definitely felt like a drag. I mean, I am so glad the fact that MLS games are back, and usually with international break, you might of course have some interesting matchup between countries, or maybe they'll be in a different competition, or even in a World Cup qualifier that might be important. But yeah, in the case of the U.S. In this international break, let's not talk about how they did during this international break. They didn't do so well whatsoever. I mean, the good news is that in the game when they play against Portugal, which I actually didn't watch the game, and I'm kind of glad I didn't watch the game because they didn't win and they lost again. At least they didn't lose by a huge amount of margin like they did against Belgium. But the bad news is they also didn't score against Portugal as well. And this is the same team that you remember all the way back in the 2014 World Cup, if I'm not mistaken. They got a draw against Portugal, and they actually were minutes away of beating Portugal as well. And for the so-called next generation, and certainly the so-called golden generation, in terms of many saying that this is supposed to be the most talented squad that the U.S. have ever had heading into the World Cup, I'm just not seeing it. I'm just simply not seeing with the way things have gone, and that, yeah, I know I said before that I do still be optimistic with the U.S. I'm not like that doomer that basically say, oh, everything is falling apart with this team. But consider how they did doing these friendlies, and the way that, if you look at the last couple of years, it just feels like not only there's a stagnation with the national team, but also it just kind of feels like they kind of gone backwards, even with the hiring of Maurizio Pochettino. I mean, all these people talk about Pochettino being the next great thing and being the savior of the national team. It just feels like it's kind of gone worse ever since Pochettino has got to this team, and I'm just kind of shocked at how does that happen ever since they decided to hire him. As the new head coach to replace a very unpopular man in Greg Berhalter as the national team head coach. But with that being said, with me kind of getting that national team talk out of the way, and now actually talk about the actual video that we're going to talk about, which is some news that has happened. So first of all, the U.S. Open Cup round of 32 matchup has finally announced, and this is very important because the fact that this is the round where we see every MLS team that is going to be participating in the U.S. Open Cup is going to be now entering in the round of 32. What's interesting is that when I look at all the matchup, I don't think there's any matchup that we have an all MLS matchup in the round of 32. And I think they did that on purpose because they really want a MLS versus USL kind of matchup. And I like that. I really do like the fact that in these Open Cup matchup, you got MLS team facing against some USL team. And especially love the fact that the USL team gets to host some of these matchups. I think it's only fair for these lower division team to host an MLS team, because that's where you usually guarantee that there's going to be a big crowd in these USL team playing against MLS team, because it doesn't happen very often. And what's also kind of interesting is the fact that, talk about my two team that is going to be in this competition, both of them could face against each other. Just like what I said last year, where we almost had a Blues Not Derby happening in the semifinal. Well, this year it could happen in the round of 16 because, for whatever reason, they decided to put Minnesota in the same group as the San Jose Earthquakes. And for a competition that said that we're based on geographic, I do not understand why Minnesota decided to jump into the same geographic as the San Jose Earthquakes, Sacramento Republic, and Phoenix Rising. But hey, that also means that, with the way that Minnesota is going to be playing against Sacramento, and this is going to be in Sacramento, and I'm definitely going to go to that one because it is not very often I get to see my team play on the road, especially in the state capital as well. I mean, I've been to so many games up in Sacramento, and it's almost like a dream come true. The fact that I finally get to see my team play against the Republic in the U.S. Open Cup. But what's also kind of interesting when I look at the schedule that's being released, there's a chance where I can do a doubleheader. I can basically do on Tuesday going to Sacramento to watch the Republic take on Minnesota, and then on Wednesday I get to see the Quakes take on Phoenix as well. And in case if both of those MLS teams does move on into the next round, And the Quakes gets to play against Minnesota, and that's going to be at PayPal Park. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting. I'm going to be very conflicted. I always feel conflicted when both of my team face off against each other. I feel more confident like this when they of course play in a cup competition. So I guess all I'll say is may the best team win in terms of the team that I root for, and I really can't lose at the end of the day because one of my team is going to move on, and one of them unfortunately have to wait till next year and have better luck next time in terms of the U.S. Open Cup. Now, moving on in the next news. So, Sporting KC have announced that they have fired Sporting Director Mike Burns, and this feels like it's overdue. I think with the way that Sporting KC is kind of going through a bit of a transitional period, not only with this rebuild that they had, but also with David Lee coming in and stepping in as the new president of operation, and also you have the new ownership group with Sporting KC as well. You just kind of had a feeling that some of the old regime is gonna have to go, and Mike Burns was kind of part of that old regime alongside with Peter Remise, and with the way that he's been kind of, it just didn't look like he had any place left with this. I'm kind of surprised he wasn't fired from this team once Peter Remise was let go of this team, and he's been there as long as possible. But yep, that basically means that, yeah, we'll see whether or not if SKC may be looking for a new sporting director, or David Lee is probably going to just kind of completely take fully in control in terms of the signings that they had, and also the moves that they need to make, which I expect that is kind of the case when he was first hired with Sporting KC. And then we also have one signing that happened this week as well, as CF Montreal has acquired Frankie Amaya on loan with Toluca. So Frankie Amaya, another player that we talked about this before, whenever MLS player decide to go down to Mexico, especially when you're a young MLS player with a lot of potential going down to Liga MX, it usually doesn't go so well. And Frankie Amaya is another latest example of it, a guy that did pretty well with the New York Red Bulls, but now that he made his move to Toluca, hope to maybe continue with his career. Yeah, nope, it hasn't been the case. He's been getting barely any minutes with Toluca, and now going back to MLS. And Montreal was definitely not a team I expect him to be. I thought he would probably go back to the Red Bulls or even FC Cincinnati, who was the team that drafted him. Though most likely not Cincinnati, because he's kind of burned the bridges with him and Cincinnati. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised the Red Bulls decided not to bring him back, and we'll see how he does with Montreal. I mean, that's kind of a rough team to join if you want to continue to live up to the potential that Maya has had. He has very high upside, and I still think he does. But him going from, imagine going from being right now with the best team in Liga MX to one of the worst team in MLS. I mean, that's a pretty big gap. I mean, I know it's not a permanent signing; it's only a loan deal, but most likely, if he does well with CF Montreal, and with the way that he doesn't really have any option and really any chance in terms of breaking into the Toluca side, it's most likely he's probably going to be signing with CF Montreal, or maybe Toluca might be selling him to somebody else in MLS in the near future. Now, Sporting KC, they have signed Zoran Bassan to a contract extension. This is kind of an interesting one because, Zoran Bassan, he has had his injury issue. He's dealing with injuries right now, but seems like he should be back relatively soon. He's been okay with Sporting KC, not great, but not that bad either. So I guess it kind of makes sense that they decided to give him a contract extension. I mean, he's kind of like a filler role in terms of the way that this team, they are in the midst of a deep rebuild right now. So why not just keep some of these filler kind of player, kind of stopgap kind of player along the way until they decide to maybe sign some big name player, or maybe even develop some good player from the academy. Remember when Sporting KC used to be a team that developed some good players from the academy? Yeah, those days have been long gone. In terms of how things have gone for the Sporting KC side in the last couple of years. And then Inter Miami, they have reported to be in talk with Casemiro. So this is not really new news because we kind of heard this before with the way that it seems like Casemiro might be the next big superstar player coming out of Europe to go to MLS to maybe finish his career as well. I mentioned before the Galaxy and Inter Miami are the two teams that is looking interested in, but now it seems like maybe Inter Miami might be that team to do so. Though it is important to note that Inter Miami, they don't have any DP spot open, and unless if they decide to get rid of one of their DP spot, which if I had to think who exactly might be the guy that has to be removed from the DP spot in order to accommodate when Casemiro does come to this team, it's probably going to be Betarami, isn't it? I mean, Betarami, his time has been a huge flop with Inter Miami, and if it continues, wouldn't be surprised if they decided to just cut ties with him and open a DP spot as a resort. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and this is so unfortunate. So, the Seattle Sounders. I mean, I don't know what is it with the Sounders when it comes to the injury bug, but they have had their fair share of problems when it comes to injuries to their big name player, and now and most notable player to went down with a torn ACL and seems like he's done for the season is Nikola Pekovic. And what sucks even more is the fact that, you know how I say before, where, when you suffer a season-ending injury, the worst part of suffering a season-ending injury, or the worst place to do it, when the worst time to do it, is when you're doing some training, or the fact that you're on international break and basically you come back done with the season. I'm pretty sure NYCFC fans know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this is a huge blow for the Seattle Sounders, because when Nikola Pekovic was brought in to the Sounders team, he was supposed to be the next Ober Vargas. He's supposed to be the guy that replaced him in terms of that spot. But now that he's done his torn ACL, and to do it at the worst possible moment during training as well. Yeah, like I said, the Seattle Sounders, they are just snake bit when it comes to injury so far. Something's you gotta kind of almost wonder what is going on with this team when it comes to them having just so many injuries, and even maybe the training facility as well. I know some Sounders fans are not liking the training facility that they currently have, and especially the turf training facility they have. But yeah, that's another latest big name for the Sounders. That seems like he's going to be done for the season because of the torn ACL. Now, moving on to a more happier news. So, Denver Summit, the newly expansion NWSL side, well, they make history. They broke the attendance record with 63,004 fans were in attendance in their game against the Washington Summit, or I'm sorry, not the Washington Summit, but the Washington Spirit. That is, I got the name all mixed up there. But yeah, it's definitely a great mark to reach. Certainly, this is a landmark mark in terms of women's soccer as well, because that's not only the biggest attendance in the club women's soccer history, but that's got to be right up there in terms of one of the biggest women's club soccer attendance in a single game we've ever seen in the world. I think, if I remember, a couple of years ago, didn't we had a women's soccer game in Spain? It was El Clasico, but the women's version between Barcelona and Real Madrid, and it broke the record. There was like 90,000 plus inside the Camp Nou there. But either way, still, this is definitely a great moment, and that, I know this is just kind of a one-off thing. There's no doubt that I don't think Denver Summit's going to be averaging that in attendance every single game. They're probably going to be averaging about maybe 20,000 or so, with them temporarily playing at the stadium that the Broncos, of course, play until their new state does build up. But I think what this kind of shows you the fact that there is definitely interest in soccer in the Denver area. I mean, I know the Colorado Rapids have had their struggle when it comes to attendance, but the reason why the Rapids have had problem with attendance is you build a stadium way out there in the middle of nowhere that nobody can really get to, and it's hard to get to. And not to mention the fact that when you're not a team that hasn't really been doing so well for the past couple of years. And I also know that from what I heard from Rapids fans, they don't really market their team very well. I mean, I've been to Denver multiple times, and I don't think I've ever seen a Rapids fan on the street, or any kind of marketing involving the Colorado Rapids. There's a reason why, if I ask somebody from Denver and I ask them what the Colorado Rapids is, I don't think anyone would have known the fact that that's actually a soccer team that plays in MLS. This is why it's so important when it comes to marketing, and also where you put your stadium as well, because with the way that this NWSL team with Denver Summit has planned to build their new stadium pretty close to where Mile High Stadium is. I know it's not called Mile High Stadium, but I like to call that name rather than the name that they have. I mean, what's the new name? I think it's like Empower Field, something like that. I think many people, including myself, are always going to refer to that as the Mile High Stadium. But because of the way that it's close to downtown, it's pretty easy for everyone to assess. And the fact that I think Denver Summit has done a really good job in terms of marketing the team, and they have a really sick logo as well. I'm not surprised the fact that there's a lot of interest in this team, and that I'm also not surprised that there's even more interest in this team than rather than the MLS team right now, because yeah, the hype is definitely real with this team, and it's great to see that NWSL has started to become a bit of a thing. I mean, even here in the Bay Area with Bay FC, it's been more notable around the Bay Area. I've seen more Bay FC stuff than I seen with San Jose Earthquake stuff, and that's because they've done a really good job in terms of marketing the team in general. Now, the proposed Baltimore soccer stadium that was supposed to house a new USLW team and also a potential MLS Next Pro team. Well, now it says that it will not be receiving any state funding, despite the fact that originally that was one of the plan to do so. And I'm not surprised the fact that the city of Baltimore and even the state of Maryland basically said, no, we're not going to give you any state funding in terms of building this new soccer stadium, because there's a reason why a lot of these soccer stadium and pretty much almost every MLS stadium when it's built in the last couple of years are all privately funded. The states are not going to really be the one to fund the stadium, because they have much bigger priority to do so. And in general, right now, in terms of the sports world, I know a lot of states just hate to fund use public money, and especially even the public itself. They hate seeing public money being used for a stadium as well, because at the end of the day, I mean, it really just doesn't benefit them whatsoever. It doesn't really benefit the economy, despite the fact that what all the sports owner kind of pitch that, and also some sports owner even use some threats in terms of trying to get their team to build a new stadium, even if it's state funded. Well, again, in this case, I'm not surprised that the city and also the state does not budge in terms of the state fund, and now because of that, we'll see whether or not if this project is going to still take place whatsoever, or the fact that whether if we're gonna get an MLS Next Pro team that's going to be happening in the Baltimore area. If there's one thing we've seen at least with soccer in Baltimore, is that, yes, I know this is probably because Inter Miami showed up in the game against DC United, but that was a pretty well attended game there. At least some interest in terms of it, and we'll see whether or not if that maybe gain some momentum, and maybe whoever the ownership group wants to set up that soccer stadium in Baltimore, they're gonna have to now pay out of the pocket in order to happen, and potentially attract an MLS Next Pro team in the Baltimore area as well. Now, the MLS local media, you know how we used to basically have RSN network to broadcast MLS games. Well, it seems like as much as I know, the Apple TV deal is going to be done sooner than what we thought it would be. I think it's 2028 or 2029. I know they cut short in terms of the 10-year agreement that is, but don't expect MLS local media to get back their TV rights. And this makes perfect sense, because the way that you look at the RSN network and other sports, and in many ways, I feel like MLS did the right thing, and they really dodged a huge bullet, in my opinion, of them getting out of the RSN kind of deal with every single team and decide to go with their own streaming device. As much as I know their Apple TV has its own issue, this is nothing compared to what we see with other leagues around this country, and the problem with the RSN, like the leagues like the MLB, the NBA, and even the NHL having some problem with their team not being able to broadcast on this RSN network, because all these RSN network have started to become a failure, and we're kind of in that age where gone are the days of RSN, and it is the age of streaming in different platform, and that as I said, as much as some people might think that some of these RSN network might have a chance to get some MLS local rights, I don't think it's going to happen. I think after the Apple TV deal is done, MLS probably going to have a big decision to make of whether maybe renew this agreement with Apple TV, or maybe decide to move into a different platform like Paramount or even Peacock. I wouldn't be surprised it might be either of those two, or even maybe them going back to ESPN Plus as well. Though I think Paramount and Peacock are probably the two, because I think I know Apple TV is still relatively big, but it's not as big as compared to what we see with Peacock and Paramount Plus. And if it is going to be on Paramount Plus, I think it's going to be good because Paramount Plus has done a really good job when it comes to covering soccer, especially with the Champions League as well. So I wouldn't mind if MLS decided to have it on Paramount Plus. The fact that now I get to not only watch MLS game, but I can definitely also have a chance to watch some Champions League game on Paramount Plus as well. And then last but not least, MLS they have kind of announced the fact that the new winter schedule will be an unbalanced schedule based on weather, and this one is a no-brainer as well because you kind of had a sense that there's no way in the world you're basically forcing these northern city that has cold weather in December and play a lot of home games as a resort. That just does not make sense whatsoever. Now, the thing that is very unfortunate about this situation is that now you're going to see a lot of these cold weather city, a lot of these northern city that's going to go on epic long road trip because of the way that they're just staying for the cold. So, for example, Minnesota, one of the team that I root for, seems like they might be one of those teams that are pretty much forced to have to play on the road for extensive time during the middle of the season because obviously you cannot play soccer in December at Allianz Field. You would be crazy to do that, and you especially cannot play soccer at Allianz Field in early February as well. I mean, did you just saw what happened in the U.S. versus Honduras game? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we. I don't think any of the players is want to do that, and that situation was just kind of almost like a one-off thing, and it's something that maybe even as much as I know the U.S. Soccer Federation has come up with different unique way to give home field advantage against their opposition. That was probably one of the most extreme way of playing in Minnesota and playing at nighttime, nevertheless in the dead of winter as well. There's no way that will fly in MLS whatsoever. I mean, the Players Association is going to have have a meltdown if that is going to be the case. But that also means that they're going to have to go on an extensive road trip, which can be problematic when it comes to a team throughout the season. It just kind of feels like it giving a bit of unfair advantage for some of these team in cold weather that they have to go through an extensive road trip because when you look at a team schedule, a lot of teams want to make sure that they have a balanced kind of schedule where they have a rotating home away kind of stretch. They don't want to have a stretch where they have like home games a lot in one specific part of the schedule, and then they have to go on the road for a extensive kind of time because that could be taxing. We've seen it before where a lot of teams when they go through extensive road trip, how it just feels like by the time they get to their fifth or sixth road game, they're starting to get fatigued and started to have that mindset of, man, can we finally get a chance to play in front of our home fan? I think we're tired of always have to be on the road and basically have to be the antagonist and kind of have to be the team that will be the underdog and have to face the hostile environment as well. So yeah, that of course is the thing that I kind of worry, but at the end of the day, this is just kind of the reality it is when it comes to the MLS season. The owners and also the players and also the coaches and pretty much almost everyone have kind of agreed the fact that this is the way to go with the MLS season aligned with the European calendar, especially it will make transfer much more easier, and you don't also have that awkward situation where you sold off a big name player for a huge amount of money during the summer transfer window, but it's the middle of the season and that could really derail your team season as a result of selling off your best player as well. So yeah. Either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to like, smash the subscribe button. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these news, and if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.